Hey moguls, it's Dr. T here, and we're talking transformation. And our focus in this video is all about what do we choose to transform so that we can get the most transformation, the bang for the buck, so to speak. So the focus today is to figure out what we're going to transform. I'm going to walk you through that and to know what do we do when we've got 72 things we know we need to change. We're heading into this new year. What do we actually choose to transform that is going to get us the most bang for the buck, the most ROI? And I'm very interested in knowing what you all think as well. So you let me know, what do you think we should all choose to transform when we know we've got a lot of things to change? So what we're going to do is just dive in to how we can select when we think to ourselves, I got to do this, I got to do that, whatever it is. I got to change my relationship, got to change my weight, got to change my career, gotta. And then we just go, F it, let me watch some Netflix. Totally understandable. So here's the focus. The most important way to get transformational bang for your buck and the biggest ROI is to be willing to go into the depth of authenticity with yourself about the causal factors that are causing the various areas of your life to be out of whack. Because typically, it's not just random that we have 17 things that we feel like we need to change. The reality is that there are root causal factors that are foundational in our life, that are consistently there, that are making us into a version of ourselves that has 17 things that need to be changed, rather than the version of ourselves that is in flow, that is living our potential, that is feeling our capacity. And mostly what people will do, because they often don't want to face the very cause of what is going on, they tend to address the symptoms. Fix an addiction, drink less, uh, do whatever it is that is typically on the surface, and what is usually part of a process where the self is just medicating and coping in some way because they're not dealing with a foundational issue that is causing dysregulation and that is causing more of a chaotic reality where things are out of whack instead of feeling in flow. And I just want to acknowledge all of you for just dealing with that, because we're taught in society to avoid everything that is really the thing that we need to be upgrading, and then focus on these other things that are the symptom. And as someone that transforms people from their more lower level self, wherever that might be, being lower in the frequency, being lower in your reality and your capacity than you want to be, into their top self, their highest capacity, their mogul self, that I refer to it as. Your mogul self just means you're most powerful, most influential, most healthy, wealthy, and positively impactful to people. Has to do with the fact that people are able to go from a lower version of themselves to that higher mogul version of themselves when they will get real with themselves about the true cause of what is in their life in any way, shape, or form that is creating the multitude of issues that are out of whack, because there's something so profoundly off that is not good for them, not right for them, dysregulating them and lowering their capacity. Something typically that is at a low frequency. So I'm going to invite all of you right now to just ask yourself this question. What is the actual root cause of all of the issues that are going on in my life? What is causing all these symptoms? And I want you to just ask yourself that question, and I want the answer that comes immediate. I want you to absolutely go with it. Okay? Don't overthink it. Don't push it away. Okay, you're just going to ask yourself, what is the actual root cause of all of these issues that I feel are out of whack and that I have to change? Take a moment. Just whatever, the truth usually comes up first and then we try to negate it. So I'm going to invite you to just go with the first answer. And I'll just give you an example of my own self, which is that in the last few years, even though I kind of already knew this, didn't want to totally face it, when I asked myself that question, the answer was that it was the way that I was in a role in my family system that was foundationally keeping me from living my full potential, even though I've gotten to do so much of that in my life. And you say, well, this is not surprising, Dr. T, but I'm inviting you all to get very, very, very real about it and not be like, well, that's just a thing and we just live with that. Because since I was little, I don't know about you, but since I was little, I have never understood where people just go, well, that's just the way it is and we just deal with it. And I'm like, well, I never got it. Why would we just let something be the way that it is without absolutely doing what is best for us? I never got it. So I was able to see, I'm going to give you an example even further. I was able to see something that wasn't just like this particular issue or role or relationship, because all of that was there. I was able to see something, for example, that is like, I was aware that because my biological dad, my dad who also raised me, because when my parents got divorced, what my dad did as he got multiple families after that, he was married 4 times. Each time he got a new family, I became the extra person. And even though I spent my entire life, as so many of us have, trying to be whoever I could be, to be the main person that he cared about, his only child, the only other version of him in the world being half him, his legacy, the gift that God gave him. Another version of himself, another chance, another opportunity. Because I had spent my whole life having so many friends, like at one point I was like, I have like 20 best friends. Like I am their literal best friend. This is the most amazing thing. And I used to say to my mom, like my big luxury issue is like, I've got all these great friends and they all want time with me and I want time with them, but there's only so much time. Because I'd had all these friends my whole life, it wasn't as obvious to me. But the more I looked, the more I could understand that even within the scope of that, like I have friends who have like, there's 3 of us that are best friends, but then like the 2 of them are really best friends and I'm the third person. Or in this group, the 3 of us are best friends, but the 2 of them are closer to best friends. And I had to come to realize, and I want you to think of what your example is, because this is an important one, but it's also a minor one compared to what really some seriously horrifically damaging things can be going on for people. But I had to come to realize that I had been an extra person to my dad when I was the literal new version of him, which should have been like, an amazing thing to him. But because I'd been the extra person, I could see that playing out in these different aspects of my life. And where whatever I did, I could be very successful, but there was still this sense of like all the people that I wanted in my life over the course of my life to be like, let's be primary people to each other, including the partners that I've had in my life, my romantic domestic partners. There was always another person that was more important to them. And so I never got to experience what it was to be like, we are each other's most important person. And while I know there's all these kinds of reasons for that, I just came to discover that I kept connecting in with repeating this reality because I'd been made an extra person. Since the time I was 5 or 6, my dad went and got new people, and then they were all together all the time, and I was the extra person that would visit a couple days a week. And so that was an example. It wasn't just like what's causing XYZ. It's like there's one aspect of it. So the foundational part, and this is going to be unique to each of you, for me, was the family dynamics, the family relationships, and not just what happened to me, like all of us when I was young and upcoming, but the way this was being all acted out in my adulthood. And I could see that those different dynamics were being repeated in business dynamics. I would come through for someone, they wouldn't come through for me. I would hire someone to service our business, let's just say build some aspect of my business. I would pay them, they wouldn't do their job, I would end up doing their job, and the pattern would repeat itself. And so I had to really get connected to, and I invite you to do the same, the concept that the way I was put into a role in my family system and then continued to play it out, even though I tried 5 million things to change that reality. I had to go ahead and admit that this was foundational to all kinds of other things that I was always trying to upgrade and shift and elevate. And while I had a lot of success with that, and I've done that with a lot of people, and my clients have had great success, I had to come to admit, and I invite you to find what this is in your life, that because I was still participating and I was still in these roles and nothing I could do, no conversations I could have, nothing I could do. I could literally become president of the United States, and literally that role would have continued on because we were cemented into it as a family. And that happened, even though my dad passed away 5 years ago, because he made me the extra person, and his partners that he married, they prioritized themselves, their children over me, and my dad let that happen. Wanting to please them, wanting to do his best. I could just see that no one was willing to make a shift with me. In fact, no one was willing to admit that that was a reality. And I just had to recognize that all these other things that I could work on my whole life, overcome this, upgrade that, transform this, were not going to change if a foundational reality was a particular role that I was put into my family system that I then somehow kept playing, and no matter what I did to try to change it, nothing was changing. And that was so potent and powerful, and you have your own version of this, so I want you to really connect to what that is, that would just end up in all my stuff. And when you have something like this, everyone, you can be working your ass off for stuff. You can be intending your reality on so many levels, but because you are playing a particular role in this particular example, and you keep agreeing to it, even though maybe you too have tried to change it, the other people won't collaborate in changing it, then there are some decisions to make. Because you could keep developing more and more symptoms from this one thing, and you'll never keep up with them because the core issue is something like ABC creating XYZ. And so I'm really inviting you to recognize that when you feel overwhelmed with the amount of changes that you need to make, to start to look at what is totally foundational and what is causing you to end up as a person that then has that reality with those symptoms and those dynamics. Like, what's causing that? For me, I took one last stab at addressing this with every transformational tool I have, because I worked with people for years and years and years transforming. And I was like, surely I can step up into some highest level I possibly could and shift this in my family systems. And the truth is that I was not able to. It was not, there was an unwillingness for that to happen. Because people get really invested in whatever role you're playing or whatever the reality is. Again, you want to consider what this is for you. And so I had to really make a shift for myself, which was that I can no longer participate in that. I'm not here to spend my life as an extra person and then have a bunch of symptoms in my life, in my reality, how this goes, how that goes. If a delivery shows up on time, if I catch a cab when I want to, like all of it, because there's a foundational reason that is causing a series of things to occur that make you into a person that then has this set of symptoms. And you can chase those symptoms your whole life. They will get more and more and more the longer you stay in the foundational issue that is causing them. So I invite you all to take a moment with all the things that you are considering that need changing, that you're willing to tackle, and you're just like, but which is more important and what should I do? And oh my God, it's so overwhelming. Maybe I'll give up and just say F it. Because there is something that is more foundational that is causing all of those symptoms. And when you ask yourself and you let the answer come in and you do not double think it, you do not talk yourself out of it, you'll have the answer. And what I find is people often don't ask the question because they don't want the answer, because they don't want to have to actually change that thing. So people can spend year after year trying to change their weight, trying to change their drinking, trying to change their career, trying to change their relationship. But if they've got foundational things that are occurring, that are in their identity, in their reality, in their relationship dynamics, in their world, that are still happening, and you're participating in it, you can't participate necessarily without having it show up in all the other aspects of your reality. There is no separate you. The way you do any part of it comes into every part of it. So I recognize, as you can, all the ways in which I was just colluding, collaborating, enabling, and participating in something that I never wanted. And if there was no way to shift it in that scenario, for me, I had to make a shift so that I could be a different version of myself, who is, by the way, now able to be a family with my own self in a new way, able to create a new family of people in my life who really think of me as a very primary person and are focused on me that way. We're focused on each other that way. And I'm just excited that in my example of just one foundational thing that I'm shifting in my life that you can do too, that instead of agreeing to play the role as the extra person, I'm playing the role as the person to myself, as my absolute primary person in my family with my own self. And I'm more growing in relationships where each other, the people that I'm involved with and in relationships with, we're building relationships where we are primary to each other. And that is shifting all kinds of things, and it will for you too. It's amazing how then you don't have this issue to solve, and you don't have that issue to solve, and you don't have to cope with these feelings because you're over here experiencing them. Then you need to eat a tub of ice cream over it. And I am just going to keep it 100% real. We are taught that certain things we can change and certain things we can't, because it's just this, and this, and that's the story. And as someone that's been pro-family my whole life and helped families build and grow together, great realities, I'm also here to say that we are able to change literally anything we want into anything we want it to be. And I invite you to open up your scope of possibilities of what that means. Because in my case, I was able to see I am part of an entire human family of brothers and sisters that I'm related to. And that's my reality. And in previous times, we would have just been with much larger tribes with all kinds of awesome support and just a very different scenario. So, my invitation to you again is to just ask yourself this question: what is it that is in my world, in my relationships, in my reality? What is going on that I could point to that is causal in impacting me operating at my highest capacity and living out my highest reality and my ultimate destiny? Once you're willing to get the answer, let it come in, accept it. You don't have to like all of a sudden try to do something about it, because typically our defense mechanisms say, oh my God, but I can't do this. I can't do that. Like it just goes right there. Because we've been programmed that there's certain things that we just have to accept. It's not a fact. It's not a fact. Everything, everything can be transformed. Okay, moguls. What I want to know from you is, what is that thing that needs to be transformed, that you can 100% be authentic with yourself about? Because authenticity starts with us and our relationship between ourselves and the absolute truth of our realities. That's one example that I gave. There's many that I can see that the more that I go to the root core foundational thing versus the surface symptom, which while it's important, it's huge. I think we all know people have gone through all kinds of things. They've been like changing behavior and modifying it for years and years. And then it comes back because they're still in the same reality and stimulus with something that was actually causing it in the first place. And the question really becomes, what are your priorities? And that's a very personal thing. And I just really encourage you to have them to be what they are for you. This is your destiny. My priorities are to live my highest purpose for humanity, which includes the people that I'm more closely related to, because they're in humanity too. But my highest purpose is to live as my highest self, bring only the positive to people, and continue to remove anything and everything that could, and upgrade it more accurately, where I could bring anything other than that to the world, because that I could not tolerate. And I know what that's like, to be on the other end of where people just let themselves be whatever they are at a lower level, and then they just expect you to just deal with it. I think that is one of the most profoundly injurious things that people can do. So when we make a commitment to transformation, we make a commitment to contribute to the world by doing the very thing that is best for us, because that just happens to be best for everyone. So share, please let us know, what do you feel is a root foundational thing that needs to transform, so that other things that are out of whack and being symptomatic and making you feel like you need to make tons of changes, what is that thing you need to change? Let's just pick one for this video. You can always comment and post more than that, but let's just start with the biggest one that first came to mind. Don't overthink it. What came to mind right away? And let's connect with that. Let's share that with each other, and let's support each other in making that shift. But we first get authentic, we be with it, and let's just be with the act of being authentic with ourselves, and know that whatever the solutions and strategies are, that'll come. But let's get honest about the thing that needs to shift, the real thing. Okay, and as we head into a great new chapter of reality that is upcoming, the invitation is for you all to commit to living in your ultimate destiny as a person. And when we choose the things to transform that have the most ROI and the most leverage, we get there faster, we get there sooner, we get there easier. And that's my hope for you. So thanks for tuning in about this transformational process, connecting in with being a higher level self, that mogul, that most powerful self, the most influential, positively influential, healthy, wealthy self. And I'll see you next time. Take care, moguls. Bye bye.